Hello and welcome to this lesson on this lovely tune called Valse Triste for the G-C Melodeon. Obviously it's a French tune, it's a waltz, and we're going to play it in the key of A minor. Just a few things to say before we actually get into this. Make sure you've printed out the music, which is 3 sheets, and I advise you to sellotape those 3 sheets together so they stay on your music stand nicely. Make sure you print out the instructional notes. There's 3 or 4 pages of that, and I've also done you a chart of notes, a single page, just to tell you where to find the notes on your Melodeon, so I don't have to keep saying, you know, G, row, button 4, whatever. They're all on that chart. That just makes life a lot easier for you and for me, I think. The chart that I've given you is for a 3rd button start Melodeon. If you're not sure what I mean by that, well, this, as I say, is a G-C Melodeon. This row is G, this row is C, and it's tuned a perfect 5th below the Melodeon that I usually play, which is the D-G. So it's a 3rd button start, this one, so it means the 3rd button down on the G row on the push is G, and the 3rd button down on the C row on the push is C. Okay, if you've got a 4th button start, then obviously you have to add 1 to all the numbers I quoted on my chart that tells you the notes used in the tune. So I've gone from the lowest note, which is A, on the G row on the pull, button 3, and the highest note is D, also on the G row, and it's button 8 on the push. So you've got those. Those are the extremities of the range of notes in this tune. Quite a lot of row crossing. The name of the game in this type of tune is legato, that means smooth. So we do lots of row crossing to keep it nice and smooth. There's not the endless inning and outing that you normally get if you're playing a Morris type of piece. Just a little word about comfort. I use 2 straps, as you can see. I'm fairly slight in the shoulders, so my straps do have a nasty habit of falling off. My wife is currently designing something new for me, so you may see that in other videos that I do. But make sure you're comfortable before you start. Apart from making sure your left hand is, comfortable in the bass strap. I always sit in an upright chair. I mean, this is an office chair, but it's very, very comfortable. I sit forward on it. I don't slouch back. My feet are on the ground. I've got 2 music stands here with all my stuff spread out in front of me. It's all about ergonomics. A lot of the success story of being a good musician. Make sure everything's to hand, in plain sight for you, and that you're comfortable. If you're uncomfortable, perched in a very uncomfortable chair, or your music's not, easily accessible to your eyes, then you're not going to get the best out of your practicing experience. So really important to get comfortable. Make sure your shoulder straps are adjusted properly, and that's a very important thing to consider when you're playing. So, okay, a sad waltz. You think it needs to be slow. Well, some people do play it very slowly, but I think it sounds a bit turgid and horrid like that. I think it's quite nice to play it fairly briskly. It doesn't lose the feel of it, but I just think it just gets a bit depressing if it's too slow. So, check out my performance video. I like to keep it fairly brisk. The key signature is A minor. Now, A minor has the same key signature as its relative major, which is C major. So in other words, there are no sharps and flats in the key signature. So you look at the treble clef, you can see 3/4, which is your time signature, 3 beats in the bar, counting in 3s, but there are no sharps and flats at the beginning of the stave, and there are no accidentals in the tune, so there are no sharps or flats that crop up in the middle of the tune. So that makes life fairly straightforward, doesn't it? Like I say, lots of row crossing. With this tune, the main row is the G row. So that row, I'm giving the notes the normal egg-shaped head, and the C row, this row here, I'm giving those notes the diamond-shaped heads. Let's talk about the chords we're going to play in this tune. Okay, we're in A minor, so pretty obviously we're going to use A minor. It's the top 2 buttons inside row. Finger 2 gives you the A bass, finger 1 gives you the A minor chord. It's a bit rattly, this old Melodeon in mine, so quite like that in a way, that it kind of adds to it somehow. I need the bass limiting and the treble limiting on this instrument. My other DG, I've had that limited so that the buttons don't travel too far. So this is a bit clackety, so I'm sorry about that. We also have G on the push, chin end. Now, we've got 2 G chords on this Melodeon, here on the pull and here on the push. All the way through this tune is always this G. So this G bass, this G chord, and I put an asterisk by those G's just to remind you of that fact. So it's finger 2, button 2, outside row gives you the G note, and button 1, finger 1, outside row gives you the G chord. So far we've had A minor and G major. When we say G, that is G major. Okay, we tend to be a bit lazy with our chord names. We should say the full name, which is G major, but it's G that we normally say. F or F major. On this instrument you get F note and F major chord on the pull and the push. These 2 buttons down here, buttons 4 and 3, inside row, fingers 4 and 3 if you can. If you are starting out, I would recommend using your fingers like I do, mainly how I do, which is first finger deals with these 2 buttons, second finger deals with these 2, third finger deals with these, and fourth with these. There is a kind of beautiful logic to that. Sometimes I break that rule. If I've got something that's got lots of these 2 buttons down here and it's fast, I'd sometimes bring my third finger down here. Rules are meant to be broken. They're there to be broken. Sometimes you need to. You know, don't relentlessly try and do everything correctly all the time. You know, at the expense of lots of aches and pains and discomfort to yourself. Sometimes you just have to say, yeah, I'm going to have to use my third finger down there, but generally use those fingers if you can. So F major, if you've got it on the pull and the push, in this tune it's always on the pull. Now here's an interesting one. The chord we need in this tune is E major. Now I actually haven't got E major on this Melodeon, I've got E minor, and I'm talking about that button there. It's button number 1, inside row. From the factory, most Melodeons come with this chord being a major. So if you've got one straight from the factory, chances are you'll have the chord you want, which is E major. I haven't, I've got E minor. This has been retuned to E minor. So I've got an E bass and an E minor chord. However, not to worry if you've got a minor chord, because the notes of the melody still work with an E minor chord as well as an E major, luckily. So if you've got an E minor, it's perhaps not quite as nice as E major, but it's, you know, it's fine, so don't worry about it. But if you have got E major, great. If you've got a stop here to take the thirds out of the chords, and you've got an E minor chord here, then obviously you take the third out and it'll be an E5 chord, which can be a major or a minor. Okay, so when it says E on the music as the chord above a bar, if you've got E major, that's great. That's what E stands for, E major, like I said earlier. And if you've only got E minor, then you substitute E minor for E major. So it's 3 beats to the bar. It's the classic pa pa, being the bass note, pa pa being the 2 chords. And before you start, make sure your left hand's in the right place. Make sure your little finger can reach those 2 F bass buttons, the root note and the chord, because halfway through, if you find your hands up there and then you go for this F and you can't reach it, you're going to have problems. So make sure you're settled before you start. And if you are using your little finger, you know, you do have to get your hand down and through quite a long way. Like I said earlier, you know, it may not suit you. You may find that you need to use your third finger. I know I'm going on about this rather a lot, but you know, it's an important thing to say to you. Don't worry about it if you can't use your little finger. I've got very long fingers, so don't use me as a yardstick. You know, it's what you can manage. Okay. Now we have got quite a few ornaments in this, the typical French mordant type of ornament, but I'll deal with those as and when we come to them. Right, now bar number 1. It's not a pickup bar, it goes straight in on beat 1. And although it says E above the bar, first time you're not going to play the chord, you're just going to run up with 3 notes, these 3 notes, and those notes are B, C, D. Right, so the B is on the G row. If you look at your chart, you'll see that's button 4 push. So the C is on the C row, we know that because it's got a diamond head. Finger number 1, button 3 push. Your third finger falls very nicely on the note D, back on the G row, and it's button 5. Don't forget, if you've got a 4th button start instrument, you need to add 1 to all these button numbers I'm giving you. Like I said, I'm probably not going to say the number of every button that we do, but I'm just starting off that way. Basically, have your chart handy, then you can look up the notes if you don't know where to find them. So you're going to count in with a 3. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, and run up like that. Notice where my thumb is, it's behind the fingerboard. Some people play with their thumb on the edge. Personally, these days, I put my thumb behind the fingerboard, the kind of Melodeon death grip, as we call it. And don't press too hard, make sure your hand can move. But, you know, again, it's what works for you. And so that's our first bar complete. 1, 2, 3. And those notes are crotchets, 1 beat each.